right, we will call the meeting to order at 6 PM. Reading of the district's mission statement. Anyone want to read that?
I can. Our district will empower learning, energize achievement, and enhance community excellence without excuse.
Okay, thanks, Kendra. Any additional items for the agenda? No? Okay. We will be removing a couple items.
Reports, we're removing the student representative update and special education presentation.
Yep. So after removing those, do we have an approval, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented with the removals of what we just stated.
Okay, it's Kelly Heitkamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Elke. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Recognition of visitors and open forum. Nobody signed up to speak. Move on to reports and presentations. Jeremy, you are up on the elementary principal report.
Before Jeremy
Oh, yeah.
jumps in, Jeremy will recognize his staff, I'm sure, but I do want to recognize Jeremy and his staff and Andrea Kronbach for their dedication in getting Bulldog Academy up and running. I think we looked at each other in January or February or early February, said, are we going to do this for the following year? And Jeremy just said, nope, we're going to try this and see if we can get it up and running for next year because it's good for kids. So he's going to talk a little bit about the program numbers, but phenomenal job by him and his staff. And there's still more work to be done, but I'll let him talk more.
Okay, thanks, Superintendent Stump. Yeah, like we said, right now we're at 45 for kindergarten numbers for next year that have confirmed and stuff. We're still working on Formation Academy compared to kindergarten, but with that number, we will have 3 sections, which is great. Right now, the Bulldog Academy looks like it's at 8 or 9. We've talked to a couple other families where we could be up to 10 or 12. Some families with twins and stuff like that have been very receptive to it, and they're just discussing it, talking it over. We're still waiting for confirmation from them, but 45's a solid number for us to have in kindergarten. That allows 3 sections, one which would be Bulldog Academy, and then we'd split the remainder students between the other 2 sections. So I'm happy with that. We've still not got responses from 6 other families, so our numbers could grow even more. So I'm excited for next year, the Bulldog Academy. All the planning, the teachers have been awesome working with them. Being in on conference calls with other school districts and stuff, it's just been great to get their support, and they're really behind this program also.
Bulldog Academy, is that one we were talking about before with that transition for like 5-year-olds?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
transitional kindergarten for 5-year-olds.
Okay.
So for those students that may not be academically, behaviorally, or socially ready to move on to a full rigor of traditional kindergarten.
I just
So-
didn't know what we had named it, so I
Yeah.
thought that's what it was.
Yep, Bulldog Academy is what we've named it,
All right, cool.
so. But any
thank
other
you.
questions?
Thanks for your hard work. Appreciate it.
I think it's also worth noting that our Kids Corner program is also high in numbers as well. So not only did we, build some numbers for Bulldog Academy, but we also likely picked up some for our Kids Corner. So I'm excited about building from the ground up in those 2 programs and have some sustainability in our district.
How many of those numbers, real quick, are the ones that, I remember when Spencer did it, he was a 3rd year. How many of those are deciding to not go into stay in Kids Corner, but go up to that, not into kindergarten, but do the Bulldog?
There's a few of them. There's, of the 8 for sure that we have right now, probably 5 of them are ones that could go on to kindergarten instead of a 3rd year preschool, but they're choosing the Bulldog Academy.
Okay.
So,
Are we noticing with Kids Corner anything coming up from Pemberton? Good,
yes,
good.
we have some starting,
We
well,
had-
once we get back in the swing of things,
Yeah,
we have some starting from Pemberton.
cool. Thank you.
Yes.
Did you have anything else?
No,
Mr.
just the hard work from our staff over these last 2 days has been unbelievable. And there's still a lot of work to do, but the dedication from teachers, administration, everybody has just jumped in with both feet to help out. We have staff showing up, calling, emailing, asking what they can do to help. And they're just kind of, they're not waiting, but they're willing to help. They just need to be told what to do. So it's been great to work with the staff. Like I said, the meetings we've had, we were here long days yesterday, today, but we're getting through it, and I feel like we're in a really good spot right now. So,
Good.
He's talking coronavirus or COVID-19.
Yes, now I am.
And that's
Yeah.
on the agenda. Do you mind if we just jump to it? and
Yeah, I was gonna
and take
say,
questions?
thank you for everything that you and everybody has been doing. Grant, you, Kurt, all the teachers, all the staff, the food service, custodians, it sounds like bus drivers, they're, everybody's getting involved, and I think this is just, it's one of those things that we deal with, and I think it just shows that we do a good job all coming together and making it work. So
I'm going to
thank
give you a quick rundown of things that are happening. You can feel free to ask whatever questions. So I think it's worth noting, like Jeremy said, our staff has been phenomenal. We had a Google Hangout yesterday at noon after the governor's press conference, and we had about 113 people remote in for that meeting just to figure out what was going on and then plan from there. But right after, we had a press conference, or a phone conference at 8 a.m., so we got a heads up on what's happening. But we had administration in at 9:15 along with union reps and start planning. So then when we talked with our staff at noon, we were ready to roll. But a couple key points: distance learning, different than online learning in the fact that we need to take attendance for every class period and make sure that kids have an equitable experience if they don't have internet access or other hurdles. So I think that's what both principals and their staffs are working on, is just identifying students who don't have internet access and what we're going to do. T-Mobile and some other companies are going above and beyond and giving that free from our understanding. So we're trying to navigate those waters. So distance learning is one of them. As you probably saw an email today, food service is another area that Sarah and her team have done a phenomenal job. We've got that up and running for tomorrow. Their philosophy is that they wanted to make access as easy for parents as possible. So that's why we have deliveries actually at night, starting around 5 o'clock. So then we don't expect kids, to ride their bikes in, or they can't pick up a meal from 11 to 1. So we're going to give them 2 or 3 meals at night for the next couple days. So it's happening twice a week, and her and her staff, we're meeting today. And also on our website is community partnerships that we have for food programs. I think there's about 12 different ones. We had a group in yesterday on Sunday that we met in the afternoon just talking about what partnerships we could have. School-age care for healthcare and emergency workers. Andrea has been phenomenal, and we actually had a link out to our community last night saying who needs help with childcare. If you're an emergency worker or a healthcare worker, and there's a lot of criteria that it falls under, we're required by the governor's proclamation to provide free childcare for those people. So it's going to be a little challenging with the social distancing, and so we are having 3 staff and hopefully having only 3 or 4 kids in a room at once. So it's going to be a little bit different, but I think it's what our community needs, and I appreciate our staff, and so our paras and our community ed people will be staffing that in some sort of rotations. So, as you know, complete evolving situation, so we're constantly monitoring, do we need to communicate more with our community, or they have enough information, so because we don't want to be on information overload and just keep throwing stuff out there. So we're trying to balance that, and thanks to our admin team, this has sort of been the room that we've just all collaborating pretty much for the last 10 hours today of figuring it out and making sure we're on the same page. So I'll take any questions that you do have.
Just,
I appreciate all the updates.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, for me, there's not really any questions. I think you guys have stayed on top of it. You guys have done a great job, the staff and whatnot, but for me, as many updates as you've been sending out to just not the board, but to the staff and to the parents is commendable, so thank you.
I just got two quick ones, just because the school age care for emergency care workers. So like, are we sending out like a bus, you know, or to pick up like a child in Pemberton or Waldorf, or do the parents have to bring them here, or how's that working?
Good question. Based upon MD, they've given us a guidance document, about 20 pages, and a couple follow-up Q&A documents. I think they would say that if they need it, if parents need it, then we are required to go and pick them up. The parents that have signed up all said they can drop them off and they can
Okay.
pick them up, but that would be a requirement if they need it.
Okay. And then when we go into the, was it the 8-day
Planning period.
mandatory, whatever, you know, are all the staff gonna be up here, or are we doing that remotely, or how's that? I mean, you know, because now the federal government's saying, less than 10 people, you know, so.
It was an intentional decision that the admin team and the union leaders that were in here yesterday made, that we don't even want to bring staff together because of the social distancing aspect of it, and, you know, and we can have remote faculty meetings. And so we've been extremely intentional. Staff have been in and out on their own, but we haven't had one, and we don't intend to bring staff in for any reason in a large group.
Okay.
We do have a staff meeting planned for Wednesday morning that Grant and I will be running via Google Hangout. So they'll log in and they'll have access through their computers so we can discuss what we need to discuss, our expectations for this 8 days, and just give some ideas, hear their ideas for everybody.
Well, then that leads me to, sorry, I guess I have 3 questions now.
That's all right.
What about the paras and stuff? I mean, because from my understanding, we're supposed to keep them working, so what are we, because there's a lot of paras, so what are we doing
Yep.
for that?
Great question. We're meeting with them tomorrow at 8 o'clock, whether they're going to live stream in or whether they're going to come here, and we'll try and keep the 6 feet distance. But if they have one of those CDC guidelines where they're more susceptible, we're saying you absolutely don't have to come, because your health and, you know, well-being is utmost important. So we're saying that right away. But then otherwise, we are scheduling them in our school age care and wraparound program. We're not going to require everybody to be here every day. We're going to set a schedule and make sure that program is staffed with paras and community ed people, as well as our custodians. Now is not the time when we, you know, need them here 40 hours a week for 5 days. We're saying for our custodians, we need you here at certain times to open and close the building and to clean the rooms at our school age care. But we're trying to, you know, be mindful of the situation, but yet know we've got to still provide food service, and we've still got to provide childcare for those emergency and
Sounds
health.
like a good plan.
Well, and it's my understanding, so the 8 days is for planning for a longer time period. So in this 8 days of planning, that's when more might come out about what you do with the paraprofessionals and the custodians and the bus drivers and all that, right? That's supposed to be,
Everything we've done
Within
up to
that
this
plan.
point is for our 8 days. We have the
Right.
SAC program planned for 8 days. We have the lunch or the meals program for 8 days right now. Knowing that in our planning process, if we need to, we hope that the plans we've come up with can be extended out longer if need be. Obviously, we want to get kids back in the building as soon as we can, but we also have to look out for their safety along with our staff safety. So, yeah, that's what our plan is right now, is we have everything planned out for our 8 days, and then that can extend out if need be.
and within these 8 days, you'll be planning additional stuff. possibly,
Absolutely,
right?
we're-
Yeah, 'cause, yeah,
Planning for the long haul if we
Right.
need to.
right.
But yet again, I just want to remind, we have a phenomenal staff, so we're putting trust in them that we know that they're absolutely going to go above and beyond for kids. Us as administrators, keep reminding ourselves to keep it simple and just do it right by kids, and we'll figure it out together.
Yeah. Thank you for all you have done and will continue to do. Anyone else have any Questions? No? Okay. Is that everything on that? All right, we will move back up to B then. C, we just addressed C. So, thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
The summary of the mid-year superintendent evaluation. And now I wrote this out and I'll read through it. On February 18th, we closed our meeting to discuss the mid-year evaluation of Superintendent Kurt Stump. We reviewed the 6 goals we developed together in the fall. Goal number 1 is the superintendent will collaboratively develop a 3 to 5 year district strategic plan with input from all stakeholders, including board members, staff, students, parents, and community members. Goal number 2 is the superintendent will collaborate with the business manager and board finance committee to provide budget revisions during the school year. Goal number 3, the superintendent will effectively communicate with school district staff on a regular basis and on important matters. The superintendent will also seek input from staff on school district matters. Goal number 4, the superintendent will create and execute a communication plan with all stakeholders. The plan will include membership to community/civic groups as well as community visibility. Goal number 5, the superintendent will collaborate with staff to evaluate the current status of curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and provide a detailed plan with action steps for the following school years. Goal number 6, the superintendent will collaborate with student school board members and other students as deemed appropriate to update policy 503 and 504. The superintendent and student school board members will also review policies and practices to ensure student conduct is positive. Kurt is currently in progress of developing the strategic plan and is involving many stakeholders. He worked closely with the business manager and the finance committee to provide a budget update for us. Kurt sends out weekly and monthly updates as well as other needed communications to the board, staff, and community. He has been actively reviewing and implementing curriculum and instructional materials with staff. Kurt has also begun discussions with student school board members and other students related to policies 503 and 504 and will continue to do so. Overall, we feel that Kurt is making progress towards these goals and is doing a good job doing so. And this obviously did not account for everything that he has done with the COVID-19. So thank you for going above and beyond what we have discussed on our goals, because this was obviously not planned. But yeah, so thank
Great.
you. Any comments from anybody on that? Sorry, I went through that kind of fast, but. So, thanks again. All right, letter E, committee reports. So we just had was it only the finance committee meeting? So,
Finance committee meeting, February 28th, and about an hour-long meeting, we had 2 objectives. Number 1, break down our general fund a little bit more and see what the discrepancies were that were from the proposed budget that you had last June and the differences between our newly revised budget that you did a month ago. So we did that, and the second thing that we did was enrollments, because that drives our projections for next year. And we will be looking actually to have a finance committee meeting before our next board meeting to get you a proposed budget in front of you ahead of time so you can review it, ask questions, and then it's likely been done, I think, in June prior, because it has to be done by June 30th, state statute, but we're looking to actually get that in front of you once or twice before, maybe get it approved in May. And I know Matt and Wendy have done a phenomenal job and actually ahead of the ball and have projections for our staff increases, which is about 75% of our budget for next year. And so we have some enrollment projections that we have. So I think things are coming together and we'll have information sooner this year.
thank you. Any questions from anyone? Okay. And then speaking of enrollment update.
Real quick, strategic plan, we're postponing, and we'll figure that
Oh,
out.
Sorry, superintendent report
Yep,
was next.
we'll
Sorry.
figure that out in a little bit. Our curriculum plan is done, just waiting for us to present it to teachers and get feedback from teachers. So the plan was to do it on our workshop day on March 23rd, so we're gonna have to see if, likely gonna push that back, but we might still be able to do it that day. And then the third thing I just wanna talk about, one of the highlights of my first 2 weeks of March was meeting with students on a new social emotional curriculum called Move This World. It's how I started my day and ended my day, and it turned out to be a lot of fun. So we had a wide range of pre-K through 12th grade teachers pilot the program. The intention was for the entire month of March, so we're gonna have to see if they felt they had a good idea, if we should implement that or if we should do something different. But yeah, it was great to meet with students and learn about what they thought of the program.
And all positive so far, or?
Yeah, a lot of good learnings from them.
Good.
And we know how your children are and students are. They'll
Uh-huh.
tell you like it is.
Oh, yeah.
And, which is good.
Yeah.
So.
Good. Anything else on your
No.
report? Okay, now enrollment update, sorry.
So as you can see, we're at 651. We gained a couple, I believe, in the high school in the past 2 weeks or so. So otherwise, still hanging around that 650 range.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Okay, we will move on then to approval of the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the agenda under the consent, under a consent agenda.
And that's Kelly Heitkamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
That's Tim Johnson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Old business, approval of policies with substantial changes. Policy 534, unpaid meal charges. Okay, so this one we are voting on, correct? Okay, so, do we have a motion to approve policy 534, unpaid meal charges?
So moved.
That's Tim Johnson. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Tim Elke. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 6-0. New business, approve resolution supporting local control. Do you want to discuss that first before we make a motion on it, just so everybody has an idea?
I think we
Any-
kind of discussed it at the last meeting too, right?
Does everybody remember any questions on it before we go into it? Okay. All right. So do we have a motion to approve the or no, this one is a roll call.
Yeah,
So
well,
do we
you
still
gotta-
do a
you
motion?
gotta get a
Yeah.
motion, though.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the resolution supporting local control?
I make that motion.
And do we have, that's Kelly Heitkamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Katie Cahill. Okay, this would be a roll call,
Gotta
so.
have discussion.
Oh, yeah, another discussion. Any further discussion that we didn't have? All right.
Okay. So since I don't know where Wendy left off last time, we're just gonna start, Cahill,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Size,
Yes.
Heidkamp,
Yay.
Hain,
Yes.
Elke, yes. Motion passes 6-0. Maybe I wasn't supposed to
Thank
say
you.
that, I don't know.
All right, item B, contract with CTS Incorporated for E-rate project. Do you want to discuss anything on that? Oh, that's what Mike's discussing? Yep.
You want him to discuss it first?
Yeah,
Perfect. I will
I
introduce
think
Mike
so.
Birding. Of course, he's changed a couple titles the past couple of years, so Director of Technology and Integration, I believe, is his current title. But I do, again, want to recognize him. He's been in constant communication with our teachers about what they can do and support them for this distance learning, is what MD is calling it, but does a great job. And so I'll let him talk about E-rate.
Sure. So E-rate is a funding mechanism that's created by the FCC to supply monies to libraries and schools for the purchase of internet coming into a building and then internet being dispersed from a center point in the building to students. So those are divided into Category 1, which is getting internet to our building, and then Category 2, which is dispersing the internet across our building. So for Category 1 funding, E-rate, we're on a contract with Consolidated Communications for our internet service, so I just redid that E-rate Cat 1. But for Cat 2 funding, in looking at the management piece of the networking in our building, we're at a point where we're majority wireless users here. Every single one of our classrooms is fitted with an access point. So we have a lot of data drops, which are the plugins in the wall, that are really going unused. And so with that, we have a lot of power going into those from switches that are not necessarily being used. So I put in a 470, which is a request for proposals that we're required to do for E-rate, which basically just says, hey, I'm looking at this project, who's interested in doing it? Different vendors go in and look at those 470s and then send us proposals. So the business manager, Matt Moline, and I, we looked at the proposals that we received for a project. And the project we're looking at is essentially reducing the number of switches that we have in the building. Right now, I have about 30, and we could get by with 10. So that would include all the stuff that we have plugged into those switches and consolidating the phone system onto those as well. The reason we'd want to do this is to one, make sure that the switches are all the same type, which means I can manage them quickly and effectively, and making sure that we're not increasing any power usage that we don't need. And lastly, to future-proof, so all of these switches will be outfitted with 10 gigs for us to utilize our Cat 6 cabling that we had put in recently if we decide to update our wireless infrastructure, which right now we don't need to do, but eventually we might need to do that. So I received 3 or 4 bids on this project, and one of them didn't include install, which was on the 470, so that automatically became disqualified. And then the other ones, Matt and I developed a scoring rubric to decide who would win the bid, and we're prepared to offer the bid to CTS in Mankato for this. And this looks kind of scary, the price, but I want to let you know the way the E-rate program functions is we receive a discounted rate based on how many students qualify for free and reduced price lunch in our district. We also get a discounted rate for being a rural school district. So we typically get a 60% discount. So we'd be looking at paying roughly 40% of that cost there. The contract that CTS had sent me did say I have to go to board approval, and I figured the project in whole being over the threshold that the superintendent can authorize, be best to go to the board and discuss that as well. So this project includes these switches, some transceivers for 10 gig, and the install. And that would take place after July 1.
Well, Mike, of course, I know this side of the business, and I think it's more than reasonable. And he explained it quite well, honestly, in regards to E-rate and why you need new switches and everything else. So I'm certainly in favor of it, so.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the contract with CTS Incorporated for the E-rate project?
I make motion to approve the contract with CTS for 10 switches along with the installation done after July 1st of 2020.
That's Kelly Heidkamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
That's Tim Johnson. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say nay. Motion carries 6-0. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Number 10, sorry. Approve resolution accepting donations with many thanks. So we have our donations up here for Bosch Automotive Services for $150 to JWP Prom, Bosch Motive Services for $200 to JWP softball trip. Bornicke Construction, $200 to JWP softball trip. Bornicke Construction, $100 to JWP prom. Janesville Dairy Queen, $50 to the softball trip. Janesville State Bank, $200 to the softball trip. And Zimbrick Properties, $230 to the softball trip. Bulldog Backers, $500 to the softball trip. American Family Insurance, 30 t-shirts for JWP FFA. I'm gonna screw up her name. Olchenbrun's family, 2 FFA jackets, FFA scarves and ties, FFA state degree chain for the JWP FFA program. And St. Andrew's Council of Catholic Women, $150 for JWP prom. So do we have a motion to approve the resolution accepting all these donations?
Is that St. Andrews or St. Anne's? It's gotta be
That's a
St.
good
Anne's.
question.
That's,
Yeah,
it's gotta be,
is that our church here in town?
Yeah.
St. Anne's?
it's not St. Andrews. I've never heard of a St. Andrews Catholic Church anyway. It's our CCW out of St. Anne's.
Or is
I-
it Legion?
I was gonna say, St. Andrews is in the Legion.
Oh, it is?
Legion? Okay,
Oh, there
maybe
is a
that
St.
is it
Andrews?
then.
Oh, see,
I'm a member.
Oh,
that's
So you donated it, huh?
No. I kind of bounce around.
Yeah, and
There
I
is
will
another.
Okay,
make the
then we're
note, I know we've canceled the softball trip, though, that money was deposited before these were, so we thought they have been deposited, so there's some rules around student, accounts and, student activity accounts, so we'll figure that out as we go, but.
Okay.
all right. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the resolution accepting donations?
I'll make a motion to approve the donations as presented.
That's Kelly Highcamp. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
That's Tim Elke. And we'll have you do the roll call again.
Johnson,
Yes.
Size,
Yes.
Heidkamp,
Yes.
Hain,
Yes.
Elke, yes. Cahill.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. All right, then, number 11, upcoming meetings, March 16th, so that's today. Do we still have the activities meeting afterwards? And then we did cancel the,
Canceled strategic planning meeting, and then also canceled our joint meeting with the city council.
okay, and then April 6th study session, April 20th, the regular meeting, followed by buildings and grounds.
Are you, before we go, are we looking at, or are you looking at having any potential special meetings depending on what the governor does with this 8-day hiatus? Or are we just going to flow into, or is it just gonna be, see how it goes? You know what I mean? Because if they extend it out longer,
Yeah.
or,
Do we need to have a special?
no, I don't
I
know, that's why I'm
support-
asking, I'm just asking.
To your point, I know some superintendents, so I'm on it's now daily superintendent phone call starting at 4:30 with MD Commissioner and some other people. I know some boards have talked about boards need to act because the calendar changed for these 2 days. We're just going to leave it. They were flex learning days, they were instructional days. But there might come a point where we have to change our school calendar. We'll wait till June till this year is
Okay.
over and then make that.
All right.
Great.
All right. Anything else? All right, meeting adjourned at 6:33. Thank you all.